YouTube Ozzy, and the Goat House is back with some updated power rankings heading into week 17. Only 2 more weeks left. So excited about these. A lot of changes at the top. So we're breaking these down every single Tuesday morning. Next video will be our weekly picks video. I cannot wait for our playoff rankings, playoff picks, all that content. Can't wait. So if you can join us, like, subscribe to notifications on, follow us on Twitter. Links pinned in the comments for that, and our sponsors, Liquid IV, GLD Shop, giveaway going on, all that fun stuff. Links down below. Panthers, I thought one of their better, probably their best offensive outing. Actually, their best. And they could have won this game. I question, that call standing as a catch, for the Packers at the end. So the Panthers probably would have had a better shot if it wasn't for that. It was tough. They weren't able to spike the ball, but Bryce Young gets going. DJ Chark gets going. They develop some sort of chemistry. So can they bring, make sure Chark can stick around perhaps. I can't believe we're saying that after what's been going on this year, but a better outing. They're going to remain at number 32 though, but maybe finally getting better, which is some hope, maybe some little sign of hope here for the near future. The Commanders are down a spot. They're going to be at 31. Really good comeback with Brissett in there. It's pretty obvious that Brissett's better than Holland. They're better with him in there, but they let it slip away at the end. Just how they started, and it's Sam Howell had some flashes here and there, but mainly bad. And it's I said it during the game. It's kind of a wrap on him. And I kind of been saying it during the year, even though people were all like, he's got this many passing yards. It's just either you got it or you don't. You can figure it out pretty early when it comes to quarterbacks these days. I know he doesn't have the most help, but I hesitate to say that because the receivers are pretty good. You see Terry McLaurin playing a lot better than Brissett, but playing like one of the worst teams in football over the last several weeks. So they are at 31. Cardinals down spot. They kind of pushed for a comeback in this game, but a poor start. It's crazy. They end up we're kind of in the range of where they started, even with Kyler Murray now, because there was times where it's like, all right, this team actually might be pretty good with Kyler Murray. So they have some tough decisions probably coming in the offseason, but they're down a spot mainly because the Patriots won. Chargers down 2 spots. They put up a fight. Easton Stick looked okay. They put up a fight, but the Jets and the Patriots winning, having to move up, kind of forced the Chargers to move down 2 spots. And there's the Patriots. Overall, they let the Broncos come back, but overall they outplayed the Broncos. And I love it's not random, but it's kind of a small thing will end up being a big thing in this game. But I love the way the Patriots called that last drive. Like, it was so perfect. It was, like they predetermined it. They planned it. Using the Broncos timeouts to their advantage. So I get impressed with like small things like that. But even though it's really not a small thing, they kind of closed. They won the game with that last drive. So, in a good outing against the Broncos, which we thought in Denver, Sunday night, you think they wouldn't be able to pull that one off, and they did. So they're up 3 spots, number 28. Titans down a spot. Look like they could have pulled this one off. Look like they had an opportunity for overtime at the end there. I mean, before they allowed the Seahawks to score, the Titans had a 8-minute or so, and more than that, drive that was just beautiful. I mean, perfect, almost perfect. I guess they could have left themselves more time, but then they would have had to predict the Seahawks scoring, and then, so that was almost a good win for them. Bad sack at the end for Tannehill, but another close one that got away for the Titans. The Giants down a spot. I didn't love how they were coached this game. They came back. They put up a fight with the Eagles when they weren't supposed to. But, man, I mean, they were getting beat from the start. They were down by multiple scores from the start and throughout most of this game. They cut it to 1 score with the Adoree Jackson pick 6. And the Eagles immediately went down there and got points. So it wasn't a 1-score game for long. So with all that being said, they were acting like they were winning or they were in the game for the most part. I understand they were limited at quarterback. I guess they're limited no matter who's at quarterback. And I know Barkley's running pretty well, but they're doing a little bit too much running. And there was a point deep into the game where they only had 1 completion downfield, and it was to their second tight end. So that's an issue because first you want to make splash plays. You want to do something. There's not a whole lot on the line for this year too. On top of it, You want to try to make something happen. It seems the key against the Eagles is, throw the ball downfield specifically. And what makes it even worse is the dink and dunk and the runs, it rolls clock, and you need clock because you're down by so much. And then they kind of get close again. They throw a bomb to Slayton. He scores. Big play. It's like, where was that all game? And they basically ran out of time at the end where they were kind of moving the ball again and when they were throwing the ball downfield and kind of got close. So I thought it was poorly coached, like poorly managed game. Why save it for the end? So I don't love that. I've seen that from a lot of teams. I've seen it from the Broncos and the Patriots game as well. Seen it from a lot of teams. It seems like scared football. It's not necessarily the players playing scared. It's more so like the coaches, the play calling. So wasn't thrilled about that, to be honest. Not that it was like a massive loss for the Giants, but Jets, great start in this game. They dominate early. They let this slip away. That would have been a pretty brutal choke, but they do pull it off in the end, and they're up 3 spots, number 25, I guess, based on how this game started. And they overall, if you look at this year on a whole, they've been a tiny bit better, mainly because the wins-loss column from these other teams. Not that that's everything. Bears going to win. They're going to stay put at 24. I thought they were going to choke that one for a second there too, but look like they're going to go put it away. Interception in the end zone, and I'm like, oh, the Cardinals could come back. The Bears have a little sketchy with closing games, but they do close this one out. But they don't end up hopping anybody. They stay put at 24. Saints down 4 spots. Tough one against the Rams. They came back, but they got completely outplayed. Like, the score won't show that the Rams won this game by more than that score there. So they're down 4 spots to number 23. 22, the Vikings down 4 spots. Crazy that they were actually in the game despite Nick Mullins having 4 interceptions. They were actually in the game at the end, and calls definitely were not going their way in this game. Defense kind of took a step back. It's been really good this year, but who they've been playing? The Bengals, Bears, Raiders, not bad teams, but not the best offenses. The Broncos were in there. So Lions definitely a much better offense. So the Vikings Vikings defense been solid. Brian Flores is definitely a genius, but maybe a little misleading. Maybe the Vikings, like, the numbers don't sit like. They aren't as good maybe as their numbers defensively, but they had a shot in this game. It sucks that they don't have Kirk Cousins because they would have a lot of wins. They'd be actually looking like one of the better teams in the NFC probably, because they're in a game like this despite all the disastrous game it was. But Justin Jefferson, sensational obviously, but down 4 spots. They're not winning a whole lot of ball games. They can choke them. They can be sloppy. So doesn't really feel like the best team right now, but it's a shame, because, just continuing to get beat up. A lot of teams are beat up, but the Vikings continue to get really beat up there. Broncos down 6 spots after a disappointing outing at home in primetime football. This is kind of the Broncos, like, who we thought they were kind of situation here. Said it weeks ago, even when they were winning, they kind of really rely on things going their way. They rely on, getting several turnovers, bounces going their way. Just wasn't going to keep up forever. They do have a defense that can create turnovers, but they really, really rely on that to win. They have 2 wins when they don't have 2 or more turnovers. That's pretty, a team that needs that, like, absolutely needs those bounces. It's not really a good team. I don't think they're as good as their record shows. I think it's been proven, and they had like a lucky streak there. They're tough. They're going to play you physical. They're not going to be a bad team out there. They're not going to get embarrassed completely. But they kind of are who we thought they were in that situation. But they're not out of it completely yet, and they do have the Chargers, who are playing one of the worst teams in football, and the Raiders. So they make something happen there, but not overly thrilled with the Broncos. Packers going to stay put. Good offensive outing. The Panthers defense, even though it's the Panthers defense been very solid, holding teams to limited points. So very solid offensive outing. Maybe a little bit of luck. I did not think in any way that Romeo Doubs' play was a catch that was reviewed and it stood. The ball was never controlled and went out of bounds and then hit the ground and came out. So I was shocked by that. And the responses from the officials in the interview after the game are basically they didn't see the one angle, but they knew about the one angle based on what they were talking about. So that's a little odd that they don't see the Eagles. But so let me catch a break there. But they did outplay the Panthers for a bit of this game. The defense has been very questionable, though, but they're going to stay put at number 20. Kind of giving a recap for some of these games because we didn't get to do the recap video with Christmas and the whole sketch. Because as soon as, we're on to Tuesday, we're on to the next week. Everyone just cares about the next week. Raiders, very impressive against the Chiefs. Very well coached, prepared recently. Antonio Pierce got to get that job. Patrick Graham, how about Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator? Always thought he was a good defensive coach. I mean, look at this defense on paper. It doesn't look that great, even though you maybe have the defensive player of the year, but it's, more than just about one player. Got that defense balling, and they embarrassed the Chiefs. So they're up 4 spots. They have let a couple slip away. I'm thinking of the 3-0 loss against the Vikings. That would be a big difference if they found a way to win that. Like that's the one that keeps popping up for me. If they found a way to win that one and just score something, they might be in business right now. But they're tough to play. They're up 4 spots, number 19. They've been impressive. 18, the Falcons up 4 spots as well. An impressive outing against the Colts. Heineke was definitely better than Ritter. Took care of the ball, made some plays. The running back trio looked pretty good. If you're calling Cordero Patterson running back, he is a running back in the Falcons. Defense, Jesse Bates, these guys been balling. So it's a much needed win for the Falcons and a step up game there. Up 4 spots, number 18. Also up 4 spots, Pittsburgh Steelers. They were tough to rank because they got so cold and they've looked so bad recently. And the run defense has been a part of it. Not so much this game, obviously, but we'll get to this game. But a lot of it was the quarterback play before this game. So now they get a quarterback that can actually function, basically. And they have a pretty damn good outing against the Bengals, unexpected, and they looked better, much more energized, motivated. So that was good. So all those 3 teams pretty much in the same boat. Impressive, moving up. And now you have some of the teams that lost. This was a little tricky because the Colts did lose to the Falcons, and Falcons did beat them up pretty good. I do think on a whole this year, the Colts maybe have been better. I don't think the Colts are as good as their record though, and they've probably had look at how the schedule's played out and like who's been in and out, who they play. They definitely have maybe the easiest schedule I've seen in some time actually. So and they've been kind of taking advantage of that. Things have kind of bounced their way, not really with injuries, but within games, obviously. So I another team that I don't know if they're really as good as their record. But they, look at a week ago, they beat up the Steelers. It's the Trubisky Steelers team, though. But I like the way they played offense in that game, so they're still holding on to that. And then you have, we're going to rattle off a couple teams here. You got the Jags, you got the Bengals. Yeah, it was tough leaving the Colts and the Bengals, staying put, but other teams losing as well. The Jags are just, honestly, the Jags are playing like one of the very worst teams in football right now. I mean, I do think on the year they are better than some of the teams that are below them. So that's why they're lucky to only move down 2 spots. But they're playing pretty bad right now. Trevor Lawrence is not playing good. Maybe he's not right with the injuries that are piling up for him. It's been tough. Thought they were deserving of moving down more. It just, Bengals losing, Bengals having, and head-to-head's not everything, but Bengals having a win on them recently. They were playing good football recently. It's tough there. And you got, I guess head-to-head maybe came into factor with some of these because they're so close. The Bengals beating up on the Colts beating up the Steelers. Falcons did just beat up on the Colts. We got a whole 3. That's why that's a good example why head-to-head can't decide everything. If it's kind of like a tiebreaker, then we can use that. But we have like 3-way ties. It's not about 2 teams and their one head-to-head matchup. But that's how that ended up going. Those teams are pretty much in the same boat. They have some wins against each other, some losses, here and there. So that's how it looks for right now. But some of those teams, trying to, they're fighting to get in the playoffs. We'll see what happens. But Texans down 3 spots. Brutal game for them. They are missing a chunk of their roster. They were against Titans. They found a way to win at least. But they're going to be going down 3 spots. But, if they were fully healthy, I don't know if they'd be going down this many spots. I don't know if they could be going up. It's an assumption. We'll see if they go back out there and start playing like the way they were playing. I've been impressed with them this season, but they're down 3 spots. Seahawks are going to stay put. just get by the Titans. That was a scary one for them because they kind of needed to win that one, and they clutch up at the end. They give up a brutal drive to the Titans. They let them drain 8 minutes plus of clock and score, and then, if it wasn't for a late sack, could that game would have gone to overtime. So DK was impressive. He was clutch here and there. The defense got pressure they needed to, but overly wasn't that impressed with the Seahawks. But I guess there's a lack of great teams, so they are in the top 12. Lack of good teams, maybe. The Buccaneers go up a whopping 6 spots. They are on fire. They're hot. They're playing some great football. The defense a few weeks ago was a complete disaster. Like, it looked like preseason defense. Like, guys missing assignments, getting predictable, very poorly coached. Just a bad defense that anybody can throw on. And that was mainly the issue. And games like this, it doesn't feel like anything near the same defense. So will it keep up? We'll see. And on offense, Baker's playing very good these last few weeks. Overall in the year, he's been impressive and playing pretty well. Mike Evans obviously was a problem, and Rachaad White's been a factor for them. So they dominated this game from the start. This game was over right away. Just a great outing on both sides of the ball, causing all kinds of problems for Trevor Lawrence. So did they fix something on defense? That's kind of what I'm waiting to learn to see. Is it completely is it going to be that every game? I'm not really expecting that or saying anything like that, but very much impressed. Again, they're going to continue to control their own destiny here for the NFC South, and we thought whoever's going to come out of the NFC South is a joke. It's going to be a free win for a team. Maybe not so fast here. Even if the Falcons somehow sneak in, that's a pretty good team, and if Heineke is better than Ritter, which it looks like, then these aren't free wins here for these teams. So, the Falcons could both of them get in? That'd be pretty crazy, but it's possible. So, Buccaneers, very impressive, up 6 spots. Joe Flacco, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, and the Browns, very impressive recently as well. Up a spot. Thought about more. Do think the top 9 teams are better than them, but they look really solid even though they're beat up. There's a lot of teams that are really beat up. It's crazy because they're probably one of the teams that's the most beat up, and they're still finding ways to win. So respect that a lot. Top 10 team this year. It seems like people complain every time I have them anywhere near this range. So it just kind of is what it is, though. That's you may believe they're not as good as maybe their record is misleading. I don't know. They're impressive, and I'm not saying that's my take. There's other teams that I have that take for sure. I guess it's debatable. Are the Browns really are they as good as a 10-win team? They're playing really good football right now. Both sides of the ball. So they're up a spot to number 10. Chiefs are down another spot. Disappointing outing against the Raiders. They have not been themselves. Some players declining, lacking that energy, that fire. We talked about that weeks ago that they usually have. I don't think Mahomes is lacking that, but other players are. Not every player, but there's guys that have that fire still, obviously, or even younger players that do, but just don't seem right. Seems like Mahomes not thrilled with the play calling, and a little bit of a disaster. I know things didn't really go their way. Back-to-back defensive touchdowns for the Raiders. Pretty brutal, but they're not playing the best football right now. They are down a spot to number 9. On the top 8, the Rams up a spot to 8. They're in the top 8. This team is far better than their record. Been saying it for weeks. We saw them put up a fight with the Ravens. They could have won that game. We knew it then, even when they were losing games. They let a few slip away, close one slip away. They lost one without Stafford, and Stafford's playing almost as good as anybody right now at the quarterback position. And Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams is playing as good as anyone. Christian McCaffrey at the top. Kyron Williams probably number 2. Running back position. There's some other guys in there as well, obviously. But defense is very well coached, making plays. This is a good football team. This is a team that could be very, very dangerous in the playoffs. Given, the NFC is pretty open. The Niners look like the Niners got embarrassed last night, but it's just they'll play each other, the Niners and the Rams. But it feels like the Niners are probably the best team in that division still, or in the conference still. But it looks like some of these other teams are beatable, and then you got the Rams who are playing really good football. They can be sneaky. and they have a chance to put up a fight with the 49ers. So this team's far better in their record. They're showing it. They're playing really good football. They're in the top 8. Cowboys down 4 spots, number 7. Yeah, disappointing. I mean, they probably would have won this game if they didn't. The fullback didn't fumble from the 1 centimeter line. I know it's the start of the game, but that's how they open it up. That's pretty brutal. Ends up being a very, very close game in the end, but you can't blame it all on that. They had a stretch where they went kind of cold there, obviously. But a winnable game, and you can't start that way. I was just surprised they went with 3 fullback handoffs early in the game. You're just thinking a little too much, overthinking things too much there. But they're kind of proving people right that they can't beat good teams. I think they can. Things kind of got to go their way. They got to be home. It's going to be, Lions at Cowboys this week. Speaking of Lions, they are next. They won the NFC North for the first time in a long time. So playing a little bit better recently, the Lions, last 2 games, I would say, especially offensively. Defense, I still kind of worry about their defense. They played better last week against the Broncos, but those 2 teams will face off on Saturday Night Football, so that'll be big. That'll be a big game. 2 teams that, we want to see them prove them. We know they could actually beat good teams. These teams are teams that we're not going to sit here and say they absolutely can never beat good teams. They're both good teams going to be playing each other. But you kind of want to see it a little bit more from these teams. The Lions, were on a cold streak, and now they're picking it back up. The Cowboys were hot as anyone, and now they're on that cold streak. So we'll see. It'll be pretty big. But the Lions kind of, it's a good time of the year to kind of be picking it up a little bit. But I still don't think it's perfect right now. Obviously, it's not. And I don't love it. Everything was kind of going their way in that game with the calls. And then, Mullins turned the ball over, and credit the Lions for making plays. And honestly, Mullins probably fortunate he had 6 interceptions in that game. If you watched it, you probably know what I mean. But, maybe that's exaggerating. 5, 6. But he did have 4. So I don't know if the Lions were really getting lucky with those plays. They were making plays, and Mullins making bad plays. My point is, with all those things going their way, even if it was them making plays, how were the Vikings still in that game at the end? There's no way in hell the Vikings should be in that game at the end. So that's where I get a little can they need to put teams away better. Still want to fully see them go back to how they were playing when they were looking like a top 3 team. But it's good that they're kind of heating up at the right time. But a big game against the Cowboys here, 6 versus 7. On to the top 5, Eagles going to go up a spot. They still look, little sloppy here and there, but still a very good team, obviously. Even though they got interesting with the Giants, I do think they controlled it. They did outplay them more than the margin of victory in that game. But they're up 1 spot to number 5. 4, the Bills are going to stay put. A little, a close one against the Chargers. They could have lost that game. That's pretty crazy. But they've been playing as good as anyone. They need to play better at away. Is another team that needs to play. Everybody's better. Everyone should be better at home than away. But there's some teams that it is a little bit of a difference there. But they do escape with the win. They're going to stay put at 4. The Dolphins, beat a good team. That was good to see. They're going to go up 2 spots to number 3. It's a good job closing this one out. And I'm dealing with some injuries here. I know everybody is, but dealing with some injuries. Is Tyreek Hill 100%? Waddle goes out. But I thought they had flashes or moments to help win this game on both sides of the ball. And it was a really good job executing that, calling it, that drive at the end. So the Dolphins end up in the top 3 after a much-needed, I'd say somewhat of a statement win there for Miami. Then on the top 2, the 2 teams that just played each other last night, and obviously that game decided it. The Niners got embarrassed in that game, but there's just not enough there given what they've been doing, what they've done all year, what the other teams have done all year, and what they the eye test, what they have shown me on the field. The Niners weren't really in question of dropping down past 2, but you do wonder, now you wonder with them, they when they play tougher, they beat good teams. They beat up good teams. Eagles, Cowboys, multiple of these teams. So we'll see them play the Rams again, who are heating up. But we know they can beat good teams, but sometimes they look like that. Kind of look like when they're on that 3-game losing streak. There's times where that Ravens defense was just too much for them. It just didn't look like the same Niners team. Purdy was very sloppy. I know some of those interceptions you can't really say are that bad. But kind of throw it in harm's way. I know things really weren't bouncing their way. With, literally those balls off those tips were bouncing right to the Ravens. But Ravens did start the game getting a safety, and the ref kind of safety them there too, an intentional grounding. So things didn't bounce the Niners' way, but it started like kind of going their way for a second there. If they played again, could potentially be a Super Bowl. Things can go a totally different way. But you do wonder, with Purdy, it's a lot. He doesn't really make adjustments when it comes to passing plays, adjusting routes or types of plays there. You see him switch to runs, but a lot of it is, Shanahan holding his hand a little bit. Not that he isn't good. Like, he's a very good player. Has been a very good player, but the point is, like, when you absolutely have to get outside your comfort zone, you have to switch things up, and you have to deal with these types of defenses, which there's going to be playoffs. Always about game plan. Like, there's going to be teams with better game plan, and whenever we see teams get upset, it's like, oh yeah, I guess they kind of got figured out, or this player, this part of their team got figured out. So these things are going to have to get figured out for the 49ers, mainly at the quarterback position. When it comes to going forward, going to the playoffs and anything further, if they somehow play the Ravens again, which I do think, and these are the best two teams in football, so I do think it's possible. So it's a tough one for them, but the Ravens go to number one. I mean, absolute dominant outing in San Francisco, Christmas night. I mean, and they look dominant. They won this game by more than the score showed, and the score showed a pretty good margin of victory there. The defense is just outstanding. Yeah, the ball kind of bounced their way, but they're making these plays. Like, it's not like quarterbacks giving them gifts. They are making these plays, causing problems, and they find different ways to get pressure, and they're locked down in coverage. They mix up their coverages, and offensively, Lamar looks like the best player in football. Looks like the MVP. Just different ways of beating you. And you could. A game like that, like kind of like the Lions game, and they beat the Lions up a bit more. And there's been other good moments and other good games, but just getting that feeling that I don't really get a whole lot, especially this year. I got it with the Niners a few times, but just that feeling of just dominance, like, whoa, like there's just nothing the opponent could do right now. Like, this team is that good, that well coached, that has that much chemistry. It's just that much different. So. Definitely the Ravens belong at number one after that game. That we kind of knew the winner of that game would probably be at number one, and the loser would probably be at two. This has been the two top teams in the year, and it's a good look for the Ravens go out there and winning in that fashion. So only a couple more weeks left, and we'll see how it all finishes for the regular season, but then we'll be on to the playoffs and our playoff content that we do every single year, so if you can join us for all that. Cannot wait. It's going to do it, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Check out our other videos. We always got more and more content every single week. Some off-season videos getting pumped out. Free agency, recent video on that. Check it all out. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.